I spent 3 years saving every dollar for my son Lucas's spinal surgery. $15,000. That meant the difference between him walking straight or suffering chronic pain for life. My cousin Amanda was staying with us, someone I trusted like a sister. I never imagined she would empty my savings account overnight. The worst part was her message when I confronted her. She smiled, saying, "He will be fine." Kids heal fast while booking her trip to Paris. Before I tell you how I caught her and what happened in Paris, let me know where you are watching from. Give this video a like and subscribe if you want more stories about justice being served. I am Francisco Reyes, a 32-year-old construction supervisor in Portland. 5 years ago, my life changed forever when my wife decided motherhood was not for her and walked out, leaving me to raise our son Lucas alone. It was tough, but we made it work. Lucas became my world, my reason for pushing through the hard days. Everything was going as well as it could until Lucas turned 8. During a routine checkup, the doctor noticed something concerning about his spine. After several visits to specialists and countless tests, we received a diagnosis that shattered our carefully balanced life. Lucas had progressive scoliosis, a condition causing his spine to curve sideways. If left untreated, it would worsen, potentially causing nerve damage and chronic pain throughout his life. The specialist was clear: Lucas needed corrective surgery, and soon. The optimal window was within the next 2 months before the curve progressed further and became more difficult to correct. I still remember sitting in that sterile office, holding Lucas's small hand, as the doctor explained the procedure risks and recovery process. When we discussed finances, reality hit hard. Despite having decent insurance through my construction company, we were still looking at $15,000 in uncovered expenses. The surgery itself was partially covered, but the specialized hardware, extended hospital stay, and post-operative care exceeded my policy limits. I developed a dedicated savings plan immediately. My supervisor understood the situation and offered me all the overtime I could handle. I took on weekend side jobs, doing home repairs and small renovations. I sold my motorcycle, the vintage guitar collection I had been building since high school, and anything else of value that was not absolutely essential. Every penny went into a special savings account designated for Lucas's surgery. I tracked our progress religiously, watching the balance grow over 3 years of sacrifice and hard work. Lucas never complained when we could not afford new video games or when we had to cancel our annual fishing trip. He seemed to understand, even at his young age, that we were working towards something important. We were just $2,000 short of our goal when my cousin Amanda came back into my life. Amanda was my maternal uncle's daughter, 3 years younger than me at 27. Growing up, we spent summers together at our grandparents' lake house in Michigan. She was the sister I never had, my partner in mischief and adventure. As adults, we drifted apart. She moved to Seattle to pursue a marketing career while I settled in Portland with my family. We kept in touch through social media and occasional holiday gatherings, but it had been nearly 2 years since I had seen her in person. Amanda called out of the blue one Friday evening. She explained that she was in Portland for an extended business trip and needed to reconnect with family. She sounded excited, talking about her successful career, the promotion she had just received, and her busy social life. Her designer clothes and expensive tastes were evident in the photos she shared online. When she suggested staying with Lucas and me for a month to strengthen our family bond, I hesitated. Our apartment was small, and our routine was finely tuned to balance work, school, and medical appointments. But Lucas was immediately excited about meeting his cousin Amanda, who he only knew from stories and occasional video calls. Looking back, I should have noticed the red flags sooner. During her first week with us, Amanda received multiple phone calls that she took in private, speaking in hushed, sometimes angry tones. She mentioned her marketing job frequently, but never seemed to be working. Her shopping habits were excessive, returning with bags from luxury stores despite claiming to be saving for a condo in Seattle. One evening after Lucas went to bed, Amanda and I sat on the porch, sharing a bottle of wine. In a moment of vulnerability, I confided in her about Lucas's condition and the surgery we were preparing for. I showed her the special savings account on my phone, proudly displaying the $13,000 we had accumulated so far. Amanda seemed genuinely moved. She hugged me tightly, promising to be there for us through the surgery and recovery. She even offered to stay longer to help with Lucas while I returned to work. That night, I felt grateful to have family support during such a challenging time. Lucas took to Amanda, immediately calling her his cool aunt and soaking up the attention she lavished on him. She brought him small gifts, helped with his homework, and listened patiently to his endless stories about dinosaurs and space. Seeing them together warmed my heart and temporarily eased the constant worry about his upcoming surgery. 3 weeks into Amanda's stay, I received an emergency call from my project manager. A critical inspection was scheduled at our largest construction site, and the lead supervisor had fallen ill. They needed me to fill in and supervise a team in Tacoma, about 3 hours away, for 4 days. It was impossible to refuse, without risking my position, the very job providing the health insurance Lucas desperately needed. I reluctantly asked Amanda if she could watch Lucas during my absence. She agreed enthusiastically, assuring me that they would have a great time together. I left detailed instructions about his medication school schedule and emergency contacts. I gave her a spare key to the house, but never shared banking information or passwords. During my time away, I called Lucas every morning before school and each evening before bed. Everything seemed fine. Amanda even sent photos of them baking cookies and visiting the local science museum. Lucas sounded happy, telling me how much fun he was having with Aunt Amanda. On Thursday evening, I finished the project ahead of schedule and drove straight home, eager to see my son and thank my cousin properly for her help. When I arrived shortly after midnight, the apartment was quiet. Lucas was asleep in his room, but Amanda's belongings were gone. On the kitchen counter, I found a hastily written note: had an emergency back in Seattle. Had to leave immediately. Will call soon. Amanda. Something felt off immediately. Why not call or text instead of leaving a note? I tried calling her, but the calls went straight to voicemail. Still, I was mostly grateful that Lucas was safe and apparently well cared for during my absence. The next morning, I received a notification from my bank about a low balance. Confused, I logged into my account and felt my stomach drop. The surgery savings account was empty. All $13,000, 3 years of sacrifice and hard work, gone without a trace. I called the bank in a panic, and they confirmed a transfer had been made to another account 2 days earlier. The transfer was authorized using my online banking credentials. I had never shared my password with Amanda, but I remembered leaving bank statements on my desk. She must have photographed the information when I was not looking. My hands shook as I called Amanda repeatedly, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. Finally, after what felt like hours, she responded with a text. I needed it more than Lucas does. Sorry. I could not believe what I was reading. I called immediately, and to my surprise, she answered. Her voice was cold, detached, as if we were discussing a minor disagreement rather than the theft of funds meant to save my child from a lifetime of pain. How could you do this? I demanded, my voice breaking. That money is for Lucas's surgery. He needs it in less than a month. He will be fine, she replied dismissively. Kids heal fast. The doctor is probably exaggerating how serious it is anyway. When I asked where the money had gone, she laughed. I am booking my flight to Paris right now. I deserve this vacation after working so hard all these years. Working you. Do not even have a job, I realized aloud, the pieces finally coming together. The private phone calls the lack of actual work, the excessive shopping despite supposedly saving for a condo. She had been lying about everything. Not my fault. You are gullible, she snapped before hanging up. I tried calling back, but she had blocked my number. The same was true on all social media platforms. It was as if she had erased me from her life after taking the one thing that mattered most. That evening, Lucas asked when Amanda would return. Looking at his innocent face, the slight curve in his shoulder already visible when he stood certain ways, I could not bring myself to tell him the truth. I said she had a family emergency and might not be back for a while. How could I explain to an 8-year-old that someone he trusted had betrayed him so completely? As Lucas slept, I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by medical bills and bank statements, trying to figure out how I could possibly replace the stolen money before his surgery date. The specialist had been clear about the time window. Delaying too long would complicate the procedure and potentially impact its effectiveness. The next morning, I contacted Amanda's parents, my aunt and uncle in Michigan. They sounded surprised to hear about Amanda staying with us, revealing she had told them she was on a business trip to Europe. When I explained what had happened, their initial response was disturbing. "She has always been impulsive," my aunt said, sighing. "I am sure she did not mean any harm. Maybe she will pay you back eventually." "This is not about borrowing money," I explained, struggling to control my anger. "This is theft from a child's medical fund. Lucas needs this surgery." They promised to try contacting Amanda, but offered little concrete help. I realized I could not count on them to hold their daughter accountable. The bank investigation provided little immediate relief. Yes, they confirmed the funds were transferred to Amanda's personal account and withdrawn in cash shortly afterward, but recovery would require legal action and could take months or even years. Time Lucas did not have. I filed a police report providing all the evidence I had: the bank transfer details, Amanda's text confession, and documentation of Lucas's medical needs. The officer who took my statement was sympathetic, but not encouraging. "Family disputes over money are complicated," he explained. "Without proof that she took the money without permission, this might be treated as a civil matter rather than theft." Desperate for funds, I applied for personal loans at multiple banks, but my mortgage and existing medical debt resulted in rejections. I looked into additional overtime, but there simply were not enough hours in the day to earn $13,000 in less than a month. 2 weeks after the theft, we had our pre-surgery consultation. The doctor's expression grew concerned as I hesitantly asked about payment plans or delaying the procedure. "Mr. Reyes, we have discussed the importance of timing. Delaying could result in permanent nerve damage as Lucas grows. The curve is progressing faster than anticipated." That night, Lucas came to my room complaining of back pain. As I helped him back to bed, giving him the mild pain reliever approved by his doctor, he looked up at me with worried eyes. "It is getting worse, is not it, Dad? That is why you look so sad all the time." I forced a smile, assuring him everything would work out. But after he fell asleep, I sat on the kitchen floor and cried for the first time since my wife left. The guilt of trusting Amanda, of potentially failing my son, was overwhelming. At work, my performance suffered. I lost weight, struggled to concentrate, and snapped at colleagues who were only trying to help. My supervisor, Jake, finally pulled me aside after I nearly caused an accident on site. "Whatever is going on, Francisco, you need to address it before someone gets hurt," he said firmly but kindly. That evening, scrolling through social media on a different account, I discovered Amanda had not even bothered to hide her Paris trip. There she was, posting photos from the Eiffel Tower, dining at expensive restaurants, and shopping at designer boutiques, all with money meant for Lucas's surgery. Her complete disregard for the consequences of her actions left me breathless with rage and disbelief. The next day, Lucas came home from school early, the nurse calling to say he was in too much pain to continue class. As I held my son, trying to find a position that would ease his discomfort, he asked the question that broke me completely. "Am I not going to get better, Dad?" I reassured him, promising that I would make sure he got the help he needed. But later that night, I received a call from the hospital billing department. They needed payment confirmation within 7 days to maintain the scheduled surgery date. Otherwise, they would need to offer the slot to another patient. After hanging up, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and finally allowed myself to break down completely. 3 years of sacrifice, of pushing through exhaustion, of promising Lucas a future without pain, all destroyed by someone I had trusted, like family. I had no backup plan, no safety net, no miracle solution. The next morning, Jake approached me at work. Instead of the reprimand, I expected he handed me a business card. My sister married a lawyer who specializes in financial crimes, he explained. No charge for the initial consultation. You look like you need this kind of help. The lawyer, Daniel Wright, listened carefully to my story. Unlike the police officer, he immediately recognized the severity of the situation. This is not a family dispute, he stated firmly. This is felony theft, fraud, and potentially child endangerment given the medical necessity involved. We need to file a formal complaint with evidence of the medical necessity and document the trail of funds. With Daniel's help, I returned to the police station with comprehensive documentation. This time, a detective took interest in the case, especially after seeing Lucas's medical records and the specialist's urgent recommendations. Daniel suggested creating a crowdfunding page while the legal process unfolded. I was uncomfortable with sharing our private struggle so publicly, but Lucas's needs outweighed my pride. With Daniel's guidance, I created a detailed page explaining the situation, including documentation of the diagnosis and the police report number to verify the theft. The response was immediate and unexpected. A local news reporter discovered the story and contacted me for an interview. After verifying the facts, she ran a feature on the evening news about Lucas's situation and the betrayal we had experienced. The community response was overwhelming. Donations poured in from strangers, local businesses, and even my construction colleagues. My phone constantly buzzed with notifications of new contributions. Lucas's classmates organized a bake sale. My neighbors set up a yard sale of donated items. People I had never met shared our story across social media platforms. 3 days after the news segment aired, the detective called with unexpected news. They had coordinated with French authorities who located Amanda based on her social media activity. They had frozen her accounts and were preparing to question her about the stolen funds. That evening, my phone rang with a number I did not recognize. It was Amanda calling from a Paris police station. "What have you done?" she demanded, her voice shaking with anger. "They detained me at my hotel. They are talking about extradition. You cannot do this to family." The entitlement in her voice, even now, was astonishing. "Family does not steal from a child's medical fund," I replied calmly. "Family does not leave an 8-year-old to suffer because they want a luxury vacation." For the first time, Amanda seemed to grasp the severity of her actions. Her voice cracked as she asked what would happen next. I explained that returning the funds immediately would be considered in any legal proceedings, but that the decision to press charges was already made. Shortly after, Amanda's parents called. Their tone had changed completely. They apologized profusely for minimizing the situation and offered to help recover whatever funds they could. They had spoken to Amanda and finally understood the gravity of what she had done. The most amazing moment came when the hospital called. The fundraiser had reached its goal, and they could proceed with Lucas's surgery as scheduled. I fell to my knees in gratitude, overwhelmed by the kindness of strangers and the effectiveness of the legal system once properly engaged. Lucas underwent his surgery the following week. The procedure was successful, with the doctor confirming that we had caught it in time to prevent permanent damage. As he recovered in the hospital, surrounded by cards and small gifts from donors, Lucas asked about Amanda. "She did something wrong and is facing consequences." I explained simply, "But the important thing is that so many people came together to help you when we needed it." Through the legal process, we recovered most of the stolen funds. Amanda faced felony charges upon her return to the United States. The money recovered went back into the crowdfunding pool to help other families facing similar circumstances. 1 year later, Lucas stands straight and tall, fully recovered, and excelling in the physical activities he once had to avoid. The slight scar on his back is barely visible now, a small reminder of what we overcame together. The experience changed me profoundly. I established a support network for families with children needing medical care, connecting them with legal resources and financial assistance programs. Many of the people who donated to Lucas's fund have become friends, part of an extended community I never knew existed before our crisis. Amanda served 6 months of community service and underwent mandatory counseling as part of her plea deal. The judge took into account her eventual cooperation in returning the funds and her lack of prior criminal history. 3 months after her sentencing, she requested to meet with me. I agreed more out of curiosity than forgiveness. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. She looked different, humbler without the designer clothes and artificial confidence. "I cannot explain why I did it," she said, her eyes unable to meet mine. I was drowning in debt, had lost my job months before, and was too ashamed to tell anyone. When I saw that money, something broke in me. I convinced myself I deserved it more, that Lucas would be fine without it. "But he would not have been fine," I replied quietly. "I know that now," she whispered. "I think I knew it then too. I just did not want to face it. I chose forgiveness, not for her sake, but for my own peace. However, I also established clear boundaries. Amanda would never again be welcome in my home or around Lucas. True reconciliation would require years of demonstrated change, not just words of remorse. Throughout his recovery, Lucas taught me about resilience and optimism. Even on his most painful days, he found reasons to smile, to look forward to a future where he could run and play normally. His courage humbled me and gave me strength when mine faltered. My approach to trust has fundamentally changed. I now understand that trust must be earned slowly and verified consistently. I am more cautious with financial information and more selective about who enters our lives. But I am also more open to community support, recognizing that sometimes the people you least expect become your strongest allies. The relationships developed through this crisis have become permanent fixtures in our lives. Jake and his family join us for holidays. Daniel continues to offer legal guidance to families I refer through the support network. The reporter who covered our story volunteers at fundraising events. I spend 1 weekend each month volunteering at the Children's Hospital where Lucas had his surgery. Sharing our experience helps other parents navigate their own medical crises and reminds me of how far we have come. Looking back, I realize that Amanda's betrayal, as painful as it was, led to discovering a community of support I never knew existed. It taught Lucas and me that while some people will disappoint you profoundly, many more will show up when you need them most. I have learned to protect my peace and my family without closing my heart to others. Trust once broken can be rebuilt, but it requires consistent action and transparency. And forgiveness, even when not deserved, frees you to move forward, unburdened by anger. Today, Lucas and I are planning our future with newfound stability and support. He wants to become a doctor someday, inspired by the medical team that helped him. Whatever path he chooses, I know he carries with him the knowledge that he is valued, worthy of sacrifice, and never alone. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you handle it, and what did you learn from the experience? I would love to read your stories in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear that even after betrayal, healing, and justice are possible. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes our greatest challenges reveal our greatest strengths.